Broadcasting live from our New England studio, Solutions Review is proud to showcase globalization partners in the Solution Spotlight, an inside look at enterprise technologies.
I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to the Solution Spotlight featuring globalization partners and focused on how HR and IT can align on AI. Staying competitive means hiring the best talent, no matter where they are. But for many companies, the complexity of global hiring compliance slows them down. HR teams often don't have the specialized knowledge or resources. This is where AI solutions for global HR can make a difference. HR and IT leaders can collaborate closely to get the most out of AI tools. Together, they can ensure that new technologies are secure and effective so HR teams can confidently onboard and manage their global workforce. But introducing new technologies brings its own challenges, like data security or privacy concerns. So today, we will shine our spotlight on GP SaaS and AI-based solutions. These include employer of record, contractor, and GP GIA. GP has a team of HR legal and compliance experts, global proprietary knowledge base, and experience helping companies hire, onboard, and manage teams in over 180 countries. And joining us to walk you through this discussion from GP is Connie Diaz, Senior Director of HR, and Maria Lees, Senior Director of IT. Connie, Maria, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Doug.
I couldn't think of two better titles to have with us, and ultimately two better executives to have with us at this for this particular conversation. And it's one that we're hearing a lot about, honestly, at Solutions Review, at our Insight Jam community site. Everybody wants to know how to make AI work, how to get these two different organizations to work together and take advantage of this amazing technology. So thank you very much for being here and doing this. Before we get started, actually, Connie, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thank you for having us. I'm excited to have this conversation with Maria in this setting. Maria and I talk all the time, but kind of fun to be together here. So my name is Connie, like you said. I've been with GP a little over 3 years now. I've worn way too many hats to admit, but all within HR. And I currently manage our HR business partner group as well as our internal HR operations team.
Well, and Maria, how about your background?
Thanks, Doug. And yes, Connie and I work very closely together. So I'm excited to be here. I've been with GP for about 2.5 years. And I basically lead the teams that shape the employee technology experience here. We make sure that everyone has seamless tech they need to stay productive and connected. So always working very closely with Connie.
Yeah, why don't we get started? Connie, as I mentioned at the beginning, and I think we'll start with the challenges on the HR side. There is complexity around global hiring these days, particularly around compliance. What are some of the top global compliance challenges that HR is facing these days?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a good place to start. I think especially, for me, several years ago, kind of coming into this space, it turned out to be much more complex than I even anticipated, even with like 20 plus years of experience. The complexities are a little trickier than I even imagined. A number of things come to mind. I think usually one of the first challenges that I think about are the rules and the legislation that's specific to each country. And, when you're global and you're working across borders, so just to kind of give some examples. So things around, working hours, overtime, leave entitlements, how you handle minimum wage, termination procedures, reporting requirements. A policy that is standard in one country could possibly be illegal in another country. And then to make it even trickier, even within one country, there are states or provinces where legislations also can vary. So I think and these are ever changing too. So staying current with these constantly evolving laws is tricky and a real massive undertaking, I would say. I think, again, and this is obviously something that's near and dear to Maria's heart as well, but just the sensitivity of employee data. And so when you're, especially with the rise of remote and global workforces, their sensitive employee data just constantly being transferred across borders. And so, for example, in Europe, we have GDPR, which sets a really high bar, but other countries have their own unique data privacy laws. And so again, it's kind of a challenge for the HR team to just make sure that the data is not only collected and stored compliantly, but also transferred in a way that's compliant with local legislation. And then also I always think about payroll and taxes, which can be complex enough if you're operating in just one country. So when you have multiple countries, this is another huge challenge. There's different currencies, different tax rates, Social Security contributions, varying pay frequencies, varying reporting requirements again. So in this case in particular, all of that complexity can create a lot of room for error. And with error sometimes comes fines or even legal action. So all of that just kind of creates another layer of complexity, I think.
Yeah, this is so fascinating because I think a lot of people are really eager to let AI help out here, and that we've all, I think, at a level used it, and I, for one, am quite impressed. It feels like it knows a lot, and it feels like it can interpret a lot of complexity. However, I know you guys did a report. GP did a report that said only 3% of executives would trust AI to make any decision, which I think is fascinating. Maria, what's your advice for IT departments who want to dive in and bring technology to bear here?
Yeah. So that 3% is really telling. And honestly, it makes perfect sense right now. There's a lot of unknowns out there, right? And there's just lack of knowledge and understanding, and everybody's on a race to get somewhere. But it truly highlights a natural trust gap, and it shows that our challenge as leaders isn't just about implementing technology, but rather it's about building the confidence in it. So my advice is to think of it like a new, incredibly smart team member. You have to build trust incrementally, right? So when that new person starts, you're not just giving them everything. You have to build that trust. So you could start by focusing in on tasks that are low risk, but high value, like perfect assignments, quick wins, like compliance checks that provide maybe immediate value and build a reliable track record. And then you can promote it to become more of a trusted advisor. So you're building that, trust up. It's not there to necessarily make the final call, but to find the key insights that help leaders make smarter and faster decisions. And of course, none of that works if you don't trust any of the data. So we've all heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out. And that's the fear that we have to address head on. But this is where transparency becomes our most important tool. So we should be willing to show the sources and show the why behind any AI recommendation. In fact, this is the very principle that this very principle of trust and transparency is something that we took to heart when we built our own AI, so Gia. And we knew that for anyone to trust its answers, they'd have to trust its foundation. And it's built on a ton of experience, a decade of GP's own global expertise. Its knowledge isn't necessarily random. It includes 1 million real world scenarios and over 100,000 legally vetted articles and data from over 1,500 government sources. So, that's a lot of words, but most importantly, when Gia gives you an answer, it points directly to that verified source that I mentioned earlier. That our own experts have validated. And that's really how we build the confidence our leaders really need to be able to truly embrace and trust AI and this new technology.
Yeah, and I want to get back to Gia a little later because this is the kind of cool stuff that I think is going to be unleashed for people as companies start to lean into how to take advantage of AI, and specifically how to take advantage of AI in a more proprietary way. But I think this is probably a good time to jump in and take our first quick poll. So along these lines, we are going to ask everyone, what's the biggest challenge you face in your company when it comes to adopting AI in HR? So by all means, weigh in, and we'll come back when we have a little bit more feedback. But Connie, back to you. I want to talk about the pros and cons that AI presents for HR teams. So for you, what are the top concerns about using AI for sensitive work and data that HR deals with all the time? I think you mentioned a couple in your first answer.
Yep. Can I just real quick say that I love how Maria gave AI a career track just a minute ago. That was super. I've never heard somebody do that, but we went through the career ladder for your AI employee. Super exciting.
I think we're going to find that to be. I think that's going to be a theme over the next few years. I think AI is going to become a coworker.
That's right, and HR will obviously have a big part to play in that. That was fun to hear. Yeah, I think as far as challenges, and again, we started kind of the conversation talking about the complexity of just having a global workforce. We all know HR deals with sensitive, complex, sometimes high stakes data and decisions. And I think if an AI model is trained, going back to what Maria said earlier, garbage in, garbage out, if an AI model is trained on historical data that contains human bias, which we know some of the models do, then the AI will learn and potentially perpetuate that bias. So I think being vigilant about auditing the tools and making sure that the outputs are fair and equitable is a really important part of the equation. I think as far as, another concern, again, going back to the sensitivity of the data that HR deals with, this is personal details, health information, performance reviews, compensation information. Using AI means that this data is processed in new ways and potentially, even having third-party vendors involved. So I think being really cautious to make sure that the data is encrypted, that access is controlled really well, that the models themselves don't inadvertently store or misuse the data. All of that, again, is kind of a big challenge ahead of us. And then finally, I would say, and Maria touched a little bit on this when she talked about transparency and trust, but if AI is making a decision that ultimately impacts someone's career, I do think we have to be able to explain the why. So like, for example, if an algorithm flags a resume for rejection as part of your process, it is important that the HR person can articulate the reasoning. I think otherwise the company is exposed to risk and then legal risk. And then obviously it's not really fair to the potential candidate or the employee. So I think, again, making sure that the tools are adopting a transparent approach and that the HR professionals are trained to understand and explain the outputs is a challenge, again, ahead of us.
Well, and I think what we're going to find is that all of the AI implementations that are forthcoming, and it's going to get quite active, are going to have human impact in any number of ways. And so I don't think there's a more timely conversation to be having than how IT and HR can work together. So let's go to, I think we have a couple of results. Do we have a couple of results here that we can pop up on the screen for our first poll? It is about data integrity and security. That's the league leader by far. Lack of executive trust and resistance from employees. Compliance and legal risks. I mean, this makes a lot of sense because these are kind of the real, red flags that organizations can cross into. So interesting. We'll come back to these. We're going to have another poll as we go along. But in terms of stories, I mean, do you have any stories at this point? Because again, we're hearing a lot from our perspective here at Solutions Review. But what do you have for stories where HR maybe wanted to adopt a tool and IT needed to kind of come in and either help out or provide guidance or help in the implementation?
Yeah. So And it's not just HR, by the way. We get a lot of requests for new tools, and obviously those have been more AI tools as of late. And this question really gets to the heart of our philosophy here at GP. And for us, it's not about a single story per se, but it's more about our collaborative process that we've built here at GP, which seems to work really well for us. So when any team, especially HR, wants to adopt a new tool, my team's role isn't to be a gatekeeper at the end of the process. It's more to be a strategic partner from the very beginning. So it's really a true cross-functional collaboration that we take on. And basically, my team assesses the tool for alignment with our technical standards. The security team comes in and analyzes the technical risks. Our legal team reviews for compliance. We have an AI council to ensure that it aligns with our governance and strategy, and strategy. And of course, HR, who's providing the business case, or whoever that is, could be any function in the company. But because we're involving all the right teams from the very beginning, we're ensuring that we can focus on the non-negotiables, right? So some of the big questions that come up, one of the biggest questions that always comes up is around data privacy, and whether our employee data or whatever data that it is, can it be used or will it be used to train that vendor that we're using, that AI tools model, public model? So we want to make sure that that's not the case. And second, how do we implement strict access controls? Connie talked about this earlier, making sure that we have strict access controls so only the right people can see the right information. And again, because we're addressing all these critical issues together, collectively and up front, the conversation isn't about listening just problems, it's about finding the actual solutions. And then when we follow this process, it's a win-win for everyone. We can confidently approve an AI tool or an innovative tool that's going to help the business. And Connie and the HR partners get what they want and need without compromising our shared responsibilities. So to protect that employee data. And, it's really a process that's, one might look at as a hurdle, but we've turned that into a strong partnership to make sure that we're protecting GP and our data.
Yeah, so you have done what we love to see, which is you've built your own AI agent. GP Gia is an HR agent, and because of the way they behave and the way you interact with them, they begin to almost create their own level of confidence to the user. And so I'm curious, because in the end, behind the scenes, there are humans in the loop, making sure that the data that's going in is correct and is going to provide proper compliance. But how important is it, and I'll ask this of Connie, how important is it for a human in the loop collaboration to happen with HR and IT when you're building agents? And I think ultimately that's where we're headed, is that everybody's going to begin to build these agents.
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously I'm a little biased being in HR. I think the human is forever going to be super important in the process. And, we've been talking about this already a little bit. I think, no matter how advanced an AI tool is only going to be as good as the data that it's trained on. And so IT, of course, comes in and makes sure that the data is technically sound, that this, like Maria described, that the systems are secure, and that we can feel comfortable from that security and privacy perspective. But then HR can kind of come in too to provide real world and human context. I like to say global compliance isn't really just about what's legal and what's not legal. There's a lot of cultural nuance. There's local interpretations of laws and legislation. There's just evolving practices in the ground, or on the ground, I should say, that really do impact the life cycle of the employee. And that's why we think that human in the loop part of the process is so essential. So, you're curating and validating the data to make sure not only that it's accurate, but that it's practical and applicable to your day-to-day business. And I think, again, Maria kind of talked about this already, but looking at this as kind of a joint effort, I do think kind of helps to build that foundation of trust. So if, as an employer, as an executive, if you know that the AI tool like GPGIA, it's not just a black box, but it's a tool that, actively and transparently is overseen by both HR and IT experts, I think people hopefully are far more likely to trust, the outputs that they're getting from it. And again, I think HR provides the assurance that the tool is being used ethically and fairly and that it's applicable, while IT provides the confidence that it's, secure and compliant. So again, I think it's a shared responsibility, and it demonstrates commitment both to data integrity, but also to the humans.
Yeah, and I think what we see is kind of a race right now to building something. I think there's a lot of pressure from above the board level down to the executives, down to the implementers. We need something. We need an AI agent. We need something. And clearly you guys are at GP are further along in the maturity model, the AI maturity model. But I want to speak to that maturity model because not everybody is as far along as you guys in terms of building out a full-on agent like GPGIA. What's your perspective with regard to some of the key challenges companies are facing here with trying to get into the AI game?
You bring up the AI maturity model, and that's super important because folks or companies are at varying levels on that model, right? So there's that scale, and they're trying to figure out where they are in their AI journey. And really, what is that model all about? And you've got more like basics like on the left-hand side, and then you've got like full autonomous decision-making all the way on the right side. And while some leaders are so eager to immediately jump into the most sophisticated forms of AI, the reality is it's a journey and it's not a sprint. And you can't leapfrog foundational steps. Part of our role as IT leaders is to help leadership understand this journey. And for example, you mentioned this earlier, a leader might ask for an agentic AI tool that can make complex decisions on its own. And while that's a great goal, and I love it, it's not necessarily realistic to get there without that foundation first. And really to build that foundation, the first step is to, again, I know we keep harping on this, but establishing that trust in your data. And your data is only as good as the data you feed it. So if it's siloed, it's inaccurate, it's messy, whatever you build on top of that is going to be completely flawed. So that's the first step. And then the next step would be to start building the knowledge, create that knowledge and build automations. And that means having the processes and the actual tools in place to be able to pull that data from various sources, analyze it, and use it to automate some routine tasks. And then you can begin to leverage the more advanced AI for that informed decision-making and autonomous actions. And that's when the AI moves from being a helpful assistant to more of a strategic integrated partner. So it's a journey, and it's really understanding where you are in that journey. And for some companies, it's just getting their folks ready and willing and able to use AI. And then for other folks, it's, taking it all the way to the right and making informed and autonomous decisions and actions.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of things in my career, and I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I appreciate that the thought that boards don't have unrealistic expectations about what can be done with AI, and that there won't be this kind of rush to
it is a great
make something happen. but inevitably mistakes are going to be made, and I don't think there's any question that everybody does need to pause a little bit here and think about the implications and not only the technical implications, but the human implications for these things in terms of proprietary data or human impact or just, quality of work. So let's take a minute, bring up another poll, take the temperature of the room here. And this one will be, with global compliance, which of these document challenges would your team want AI to help? Pardon me. We'll come back to see what we've got for results around that. But Connie, I'll go to you now. What could future HR leaders look like with AI successfully integrated into their workflow? I mean, what are the levers that you're going to be able to get, or do you see that you can get out of having AI on the HR team?
I feel like this is the $1 million question. Like, what does the human component look like in the future when AI is fully integrated? I'm a big believer that AI will not replace workers. It will augment or help to elevate work. So I do think, specifically when we're thinking about HR, the future HR leader, there's an opportunity here to look less like an administrator and more like a strategic partner and a change agent, which I know we say a lot, and in HR we always strive for that, but the fires inevitably come up, and it's kind of hard sometimes to get to that stuff. So I think with AI having the ability to automate transactional work, we really do have the capacity to do more strategic things with the business and partner with the business in a different way, identifying future skills gaps, being just more proactive in how we're designing talent strategies, forecasting trends, all things that are currently on the plate of the HR leader, but that sometimes, unfortunately, we just don't have the capacity to do. So with AI automating some of the transactional tasks, I think there's more opportunity for that in the future. I think we know that AI excels at enforcing rules and curating data and giving you outputs, but it's not an empathetic tool with emotional intelligence, right? Like I do think the HR leader of the future will still need to continue to be the champion for the humans that show up at work. And they'll still need to dedicate time to fostering a strong culture and to leading with empathy and just looking after employee well-being. I think that the future HR leader can use AI insights to do this. And, for example, detect signs of burnout or early signs of disengagement, but ultimately they'll still need to use their human skills to have conversations with people and provide the support that is needed. And I think, it'll be critical for HR professionals to lead the workforce through this transformation. HR acts as a change agent in most of the big organizational transformations, and this is a big one. And it's coming fast and furious, as we've been talking about. So I think this includes things like crafting a new kind of workforce that includes both AI and humans. Maria already built a career architecture for us, so we're ahead there too. But I do think that the HR professionals in the future will also be critical in helping design new roles, developing upskilling programs and training to help employees, better collaborate with AI tools. And again, always making sure that there's that human in the loop component. I think that'll also continue to be a critical part of the process. So I would say, I think the role of the new HR professional is to ensure that the technology augments humanity rather than diminishes it. And I see that as continuing to be a critical part of the process.
Yeah, I think there's a dichotomy here, and I think we're going to find that AI becomes remarkably human-like and may well have baked in data-driven empathy and creativity and other things as we go along. But for the time being, I think it's going to have to rest on the HR department to kind of, almost create a protective position around some of the implementations that are going to come forward, because I don't see how they don't have some degree of impact on the human workforce and creating, the emotional issues that are going to surround that. This is just going to get more complicated. So let's take a look at our poll results actually while we have a moment, and we'll see what folks are thinking with regard to the challenges that teams want AI to help with. Translating existing documents is number one. I can relate to that. Updating employee handbook. I wonder whether that's just because people just aren't reading their employee handbooks and don't recognize the value there. Or performing manual reviews. Interesting. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on those results, but I love the idea of translating existing documents as kind of an AI thing to do. That feels like an AI thing to do. It's hard and tedious. All right. Well, we'll have more results actually, I think, as we go forward, but we'll come back to some of that. So, Maria, from an IT perspective, what's the most important piece of advice you can give to HR leaders who are just at the beginning of their AI journey, so in that kind of early stage of their AI adoption?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I actually wanted to just comment on what Connie said earlier about the HR leader's role as AI evolves. Well, the HR leader's role also evolves as AI evolves. So it's not that they're no longer needed, it just changes. And again, as she had mentioned, it really allows them to focus on the more strategic things that really requires a human. So I thought that was a great point that she made there. But for my advice, I guess I would say focus on, there's a theme here, Doug. Focus on your data integrity and governance first, because it's so easy to get excited about these new AI tools. I get excited about them every single day, and I have to stop myself sometimes. And folks want to jump right in, but a common mistake is trying to implement something before that data is ready. So I would say, because AI models are completely dependent on good data, make sure your data is good. If the data is messy, again, it's going to give you bad results, and that's going to hurt any trust that you're trying to build, in your organization. So, and it might make it harder to get approval for future projects. So before you even select a tool, just make sure that, you have a solid data foundation. And that's where Connie and I have a close partnership, and HR and IT becomes so important because we can work together and we can help HR with a few key things with that cleaning and centralizing of the data. And what I mean by that is just consolidating all that information from all those different systems like payrolls and benefit and performance reviews into a single and reliable trusted source that that anytime AI is touching it's coming from that trusted source. And then we want to establish the data governance around it. And it's really about creating just clear rules about how that data is collected and used. And that's crucial for accuracy and privacy. And then, this one I'm really big on, and I think most folks are, including our InfoSec team, is helping to ensure security by making sure that we have those strong access controls in place from the start so that we're protecting that sensitive employee information and only the right folks have access to it. So, whatever you're implementing, the rules should follow the rules of your other tools, right? So if you have protection over one tool, that when AI touches or reaches into that tool, it should be protected as well, and it should follow those rules. So it's super important to make sure that you're staying aligned. And I go back to the previous question that you asked about a story and how we were talking about how do we handle things and how do we onboard maybe an AI tool? It's really that cross-functional collaboration because, you don't want to miss any of those blind spots. And so you really have to pull in the right teams. So I would, that would be my advice.
Yeah, so I want to take a moment to just kind of recap as we're kind of moving through this rapid fire session. My takeaways so far is that AI is a journey, not a sprint, which, again, that totally tracks with everything that we see at Solutions Review. We've got people in every level of the AI maturity model, and there are going to be, as you move through the journey, just like any journey, there are going to be bumps in the road. But you absolutely, I think the lesson that everybody is being told, or the demand that everybody is receiving, is that you have to play. This isn't one that you can just sit on the sidelines and opt out of. So by all means, start the journey, but don't go too quick. Secondarily, trust is earned through transparency and incremental wins. I think this is a good point too. My sense is that transparency is going to be particularly important, not only at the executive levels, but at the kind of frontline worker level. I mean, I don't know, Connie, what do you think about that in terms of how much you want to share with the workers of some of the AI implementations that are coming down? I mean, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point you're making. Obviously, trust at the executive level is going to be critical to help drive everything forward. But I think, and you mentioned this earlier, the people in the front line who are actually putting one foot in front of the other to drive the business forward, I think it's critical that they understand what's happening and why. And I would say this is probably true with any new process or tool, but especially something that like this, where it feels like you just said, like everybody has to play and you got to do it quick. And it just feels really massive and like it's moving really quickly. So we usually like to focus on the why and make sure that people understand, like, A, why does this impact me? But also, like, why is the company choosing to engage in this at this time?
Well, that's it, right? There's a lot of horror stories. I mean, it's hard not to see them. That this is going to wipe out people, and it's going to do this and that, and there's a natural tendency to be wondering, is that me? Is that going to happen to me? So I am curious about where that kind of where you find that line with regard to transparency around why and what.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say this, because we've been having a lot of conversation around this recently. And I recently started trying to challenge our employees to actually use AI to their advantage. So not only to help them be, quote unquote, more efficient in their work, but also to help them even augment or move forward in their own career. You can leverage AI to help you be a more effective communicator, to help you prepare for a tough conversation, to help you think of what you should bring up to your boss if you're struggling with something. So I've now started to shift the conversation to, like, let's focus on how this helps you augment your work, but also let's figure out how to use this to help you upskill and possibly even help you move forward in your career. So, like, use it smartly in all ways.
I think I just like to chime in. I think that's wonderful what Connie is saying. I think there's a fear sometimes, like, oh, are they going to think that I've used AI? But at GP, we're an AI company, so we want you to use AI, and we encourage our folks here to use AI on a daily basis. If you can do it faster with AI, then why not? But we also say use it responsibly. So that's super important, that when you are using AI, again, you have to trust it. It's not going to make the decision for you all, unless, we've gotten all the way to that right side of the maturity model. But you still have to use common sense, if that makes any sense. There's still that human component, but do use it. It's a great thing. Don't be afraid. So we encourage our, all employees to use it, and we find various ways to make AI available to them as well. So, I love what Connie said about that, because it is true. And I think there's fear. Oh, I might lose my job if I, with AI. And that's not really the case. It's enhancing. It's enabling you to be a better employee.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. One of the, I think this speaks to one of the final takeaways that I have, which is this idea of cross-functional collaboration is non-negotiable, which Maria, I think you were talking about. The idea that you can't operate in a silo with this tech. This is too powerful. It has too many implications. You can get into too deep weeds if you are kind of operating independently with such power. So, can you speak a little bit more about this idea of the sensitivity of the data and the need to have that cross collaboration?
Yeah, so the cross collaboration is really important because you need to protect your organization, right? So with AI, you still need those humans in the loop, and you need that cross functional collaboration to help you really make intelligent decisions for what you're bringing in as tools. What tools you're bringing into your business, and what those tools are actually doing. I don't have all the answers just on the IT side. I need the security team to help me. I don't know from a legal and compliance, and I could ask Gia. Wink, wink. But I don't have all that knowledge, so I need to pull in those cross-functional leaders to help us make those decisions together. So I think that's really crucial.
Yeah, so we are entering the last little bit of our discussion today. So I would certainly welcome any questions that you may have. I have a few myself, and we've gotten a couple already. And one of them, which I will kind of open up to whoever wants to take this one, is when implementing a new tool, what's a realistic time frame for data prep and governance? And honestly, this one's near and dear to my heart because I honestly believe, it's been my experience having been not only here at Solutions Review, but in companies and also selling programs into large companies, that the dirty secret of a lot of companies is their data. They don't like to talk about it. It's in more of a state of disrepair than they'd like to admit. It may well be holding them back from doing big AI projects because they know deep in their heart that it isn't going to yield what they hope to be the AI truth, if you will. But I'm curious. I guess Maria, this might be you.
Yeah, sure.
What are the time frames? I mean, we're obviously not talking weeks or months, but what can people be thinking about with regard to getting their data sorted?
Honestly, I suppose it completely depends on the scope or what it is. I'd say start now because AI is not going away. So start now. But I suppose if you're tackling one problem with a clean data source, it could be ready in a matter of weeks. But if you're trying to connect all these various systems, dozen messy systems, you could be looking at months longer. So start now is my advice, and start small, by the way. Don't try to boil the ocean. Like when AI first started, it was like so excited and so overwhelming. You don't know where to start. Just pick one spot, one high value impact workflow that you can tackle that and get a quick win out of that. Start building your momentum from there. So you don't have to, again, boil the ocean. Start small and build incrementally.
Can you guys share a little bit about how you did GPGIA? Because that's as good an example as any of an advanced AI agent. Did you guys work together? Did you? How did it go down? How did you kind of navigate the waters of having the HR information in with the technology underpinnings? Can you talk a little bit about how you did it?
So I can start, and I'll share. It's funny. I actually was thinking about this earlier at one part of our conversation. I think, Doug, when you were first introducing GP, the 100,000 knowledge articles. I was part of reviewing many of those. So just based on my HR expertise. And so as far as collaborating, obviously there was collaboration well beyond just HR and IT, but a lot of the collaboration as we built the tool from an HR standpoint wasn't just about like, wear your HR professional hat and tell us how this might be useful for you. But again, it was also making sure that the data that we were putting in there was validated and that the knowledge base is a true expert knowledge base, from a director level HR person who's been in the field for 20 plus years, right? Like we really wanted to make sure that we were curating the data that the tool was part of, which the tool is based on. So I was just thinking about all the hours that went into that earlier and how it's so nice to now kind of be on the other side and actually be using the tool and just.
And Maria, would you mind just kind of describing the tool kind of a little bit more in depth? Because I might have passed over that part, but it is a pretty sophisticated agent.
Yeah, I'll do my best to give it, the accolades that it deserves. But it is a very cool tool that, like I said, it's built on expertise, like Connie's expertise, by the way. So decades of a decade of knowledge from GP, because that's what GP does, right? The compliance and their HR, right? They know that in and out. So it's all built on all that knowledge. So and so there's trust behind it, and it goes back to those verified sources. So it's not like you go to Google and you search for something and it just searches the vast internet of answers. No, this is like curated, validated, verified information, based on years of experience. So, it's a wonderful tool and, based on the polls that you're showing, Gia can do all that stuff. I'm just, I'm on the IT side. And so like, I'm not an HR person per se, but like I could go in there and ask it simple questions and trust the outputs that it's giving to me and create things for me. So it's a very powerful tool.
Well, this is the promise of AI, that if you decide you want to go really deep on a particular topic like global compliance across workforces, and you can access the data and the regulations and all the laws and get all of that information in, and then ultimately, it is complicated because you have to build the algorithm and the way that the information is processed and presented. I mean, it's an incredibly complicated process. And then you ultimately need something that people can trust. I mean, it can't start delivering things that get anybody into any kind of hot water. So, well done, by the way, because it is something that people should see, and we would encourage everybody to go to GP and check it out, because it's cool, and it is kind of the promise of AI encapsulated in a neat tool. I have a question around, I guess, Connie, this would be for you. How do you make sure that employers are comfortable with AI being used, and what steps do you take to prevent them from feeling like they're being monitored or replaced? This is the other side of the coin here that's different than every other technology that we've implemented. This isn't going from analog to digital or from online or from offline to online. This is a whole different animal because ultimately it's built as a neural network to think like people. So how do you help them deal with the concerns that they're naturally going to have around that?
Yeah. So, and I know we already kind of talked a little bit about this, but, again, just kind of going back to and implementing any change or anything new or anything that people might just be like, I'm not really sure and I'm worried or I'm scared or I don't know if I trust. I think, again, it just goes back to, explaining the why, being transparent. Sometimes I get in trouble for being more transparent than others might like, but I am a big fan of transparency, and obviously using good judgment in how transparent you are given the audience or the situation. But I think the more information that people have, I think the more comfortable people feel. And, I try to put myself in their shoes. I'm a naturally curious person. I usually have 100 questions about every little thing. So I try to do the same for them. If they have questions, or if we're sharing information and they have follow-ups, or they're not comfortable talking about it in a group setting, our HR business partners do a really good job just meeting with people one-on-one or joining staff meetings just to kind of talk through the process and, how it all came to be, right? To what we were just kind of talking about earlier, and how we really envision that this can help, again, augment what they're doing, not replace what they're doing. A lot of times I like to share examples of how I use it in ways that I feel like make me, like Maria said earlier, a better employee. So I feel like I'm, again, kind of, if we're relying on how can you use it even to your advantage, all new things are always a little scary. And like you said, this is even scarier than perhaps other big transformations. But I think once people start using it and kind of understanding how it works or how they can leverage, we've seen people get super excited about it and kind of lose a little bit of that fear. So we kind of just try to meet them where they are. At GP, we're big believers in one size fits one, which I am a big proponent of that philosophy. And so we try to meet people where they are. Some people are super comfortable with it. They use it in their personal lives. They're big proponents, like they're good to go. Other people are not so sure and maybe a little worried. And so we work with them one-on-one or try to show them, this is how it's helped me. Like maybe let's work together to see how we can build a task for you in GIA and see how it can help you. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, I think is what I'm trying to say. And just, as with all things, just lead with the truth and try to gain trust in baby steps.
I think that.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think it's an open conversation, right? You absolutely. There's just no. Employees are just too informed these days, external to the company. The idea that they won't hear something's happening on another floor in another building in another country. It just doesn't work that way anymore. We're just too well connected, and there's just too much information. So I think your point is a good one. That is, transparency is kind of has to be the default. But I'm curious, Maria. One last question before we kind of wrap things up here. Is there any way to audit AI for bias? Is there any kind of binary way, or is that just something that you have to kind of trial and error?
That's a great question. I'm sure AI would have an answer for it.
Well, that would be that might not be the answer you want.
It might be biased. I'm sure there are ways through some, through I suppose the verified sources and the transparency.
Is that it? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, because you need to understand how is
this is the human in the loop part.
In the loop.
Yes, yep. yes, exactly. And Connie talked about this earlier, where it perpetuates if you're not careful, right? So
no magic IT bullet. You can just kind of like couple keystrokes and all biases obliterated. All right, fine. Well, it's an absolute fascinating time. I tell you, I couldn't be happier to be at Solutions Review and get to talk to folks like you who are dealing with this stuff on the front lines, because it's only going to get more interesting. And I honestly, I've seen a lot, but I don't know that I'll ever see anything like this, and I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. I just think it's going to be fascinating and a challenge. But it'll probably also do some of the most amazing things that we could possibly have imagined and really change society. I'm optimistic. I think it's all going to work out for the best. But we'll have to see.
That's exciting for sure.
Well, let me wrap this up with a little bit of a thank you and also a call to action. If you'd like to book a demo and see GPGIA, which I encourage everybody to do, you'll receive a $10 Starbucks gift card. There's a QR code right there that you can easily scan, and again, it's a sight to see. Once again, thank you both very much for being here and having this conversation. This is the conversation that companies have to have. There's no doubt about it. Everybody wants to rush to the tech, but this is not the same tech as the old tech. This is a different tech. It's a human impact story. It's a human augmentation story. It's a human in the loop story. You got to have HR involved as well. Yeah, well done. Thank you very much, and best of luck with all you're doing at GP.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Another solution in our spotlight. We want to thank Connie and Maria and Globalization Partners for that presentation today. And we appreciate your attendance as well. Until next time, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.
If your business would like to be featured in a future event, contact us today.